Today we're interviewing Kimberly Hardick. She has a Facebook group called Parenting Forward, Finding Strength After Estrangement. Hi, Kim.
Hi, how are you?
Kimber,
I
right?
go by Kimber.
Kimber. Hi, Kimber. I'm so glad you're here and I
Thank you.
appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I wanted to talk about your attitude on estrangement is so positive, and I think it would be helpful for other women and people that are estranged to hear it. So I wanted you to talk about how you feel about it.
Now or when it first happened?
Whatever you want to say. It's a you.
When it first happened, I spiraled and I kept trying to make meaning out of the situation. And our minds are meaning making machines. And when we don't have the information, our mind tends to fill in the blanks. And being in a position where I really couldn't get clarity, my storyteller was on board, my narrator, my commentator, my director, and it wasn't functional for me. And I was doing an integration coaching training. And when I was in what I call the messy middle, I was
going through a training.
Yeah. And something came up that triggered me around my estrangement. I was sharing it to the group. One of the questions that was asked of me was to look at my beliefs around how a mother-child relationship should look, and then look at it through the eyes of, but this is how it is. I was hanging on to this belief that this is how it should be. This is how it should look. I was labeling it. And so when I stopped and went, wow, okay, so this is how the relationship is for now. And I'm causing myself to spiral and spin into constant heaviness and darkness and suffering because I was comparing it to the way it should be. And so
Wait,
that
just
was the start.
how long have you been estranged?
3 years. It'll be 3 years in April.
Okay, I'm 5
Okay.
into it, and I feel like I've been through every stage of grief 3 times. I think as mothers, we have a picture of what it's supposed to look like, and then we raise them to be independent thinkers, independent people, self-sufficient. We make them strong. We do everything that we need to do with them. And I feel like our mother job's done, and now we're coming into the good stuff. It's watching them get married and have children, being a grandmother, being grandfather. Our perception of what it looks like when the estrangement happens, it shakes our world to the core.
Part of that is because we have this belief, and that belief has become our identity. And then the brain, its job is survival of your identity. And so when things don't go as we planned or expected, then the mind kicks in because it's trying to survive the identity that we have constructed around our belief of the relationship. And I think one of the biggest fallacies, and I learned this when I have 4 children, when my kids were little, is that parents say all the time, oh, I don't care what my kids do as long as they're happy. I don't care what my kids do as long as they're happy doing what I think they need to be doing. And another thing that I've been looking at, this is all the work I've been doing has not been around trying to fix the situation, trying to fix him. It's all been on looking at myself and rewriting old stories that I told myself from a place of being the victim or the villain or the helper. And we can ping around in all 3 of those positions. And one of the stories that I started to rewrite, and this is what led to my book, An Invitation to Shine. An Invitation to Shine from Invisible to Invincible was rewriting stories from a place of the drama triangle, from a victim role, the helper, or the villain, to a place of empowerment. One of the first ones I rewrote was I'm divorced from my children's father. The story I kept telling was I stayed for the kids. I realized how much pressure that put on my children. I was the helper because I was staying. I was the victim because I was staying. And then I was the villain if I were to leave.
You were
So
also
when I
the fixer. You were fixing
yeah,
everything.
the helper. So when I rewrote it, the story I told myself was I stayed in my marriage as long as I did because I didn't know what else to do. I wrote my kids a letter and apologizing for that. Another area that I looked at was I've spent my whole life trying not to disappoint people. And when you think about it, when someone is disappointed in you, it's because of expectations they've set on you that you didn't sign up for. I don't want to be disappointed in my child's decision because he's not living up to expectations that I set. So, all these things that I'm looking at that I want in my life, that I want to stop shrinking from, that I want to become invincible and strong and articulate and showing up, I'm applying towards him and what I want. And I'm honoring the boundary because if I intend to set boundaries with other people, I need to honor their boundaries as well. So it's been looking at myself and learning how to be with my emotions and not feeding the story. I want to share what happened to me yesterday because it fits in beautifully to the work that I'm doing with emotions. I'm a surfer, or I'm learning to surf. And I went out yesterday and I had tapped into some anger a couple days ago. I had tapped into a sensation of anger in my body, and I have avoided anger at all costs because I associate it with the behavior of anger. And so when I was working on this interactive wheel that I'm building, it brought me into anger. And I was like, oh, so this is what anger feels like. I know when anger shows up, it's protecting me from something deeper. There's something underneath it. So yesterday I went surfing and I didn't want to go because my body was so full of this energy. But I went and I let the ocean beat the fire out of me. It felt so good. It was like boom. And once that anger was able to move and shift and I could give it space, underneath it was this sadness. And I've been sitting with this sadness and I found myself wanting to justify why I was feeling sad and trying to figure out, is it this? Is it that? And creating stories. Wait, stop. This is not the work that you do. The work that you're doing is to just notice, wow, I'm really feeling sad. What is the message? And what does it feel like? And can I give it space? And so I gave it space. I came home and I had a conversation with my husband and was able to just be with the emotion. And I think what happens for so many of us when we're in these emotions, we're trying to make sense of them. There's a seduction to staying angry and to staying enraged or to be staying in disgust or whatever it is. Anger gives us a sense of control and a sense of power.
Right.
If we were to remove that, we'd have to look underneath at the vulnerability, at the emptiness. And so learning how to feel my emotions and not feed them with a story. I always know when I'm feeding emotions because I'm looping. It's part A, then part B, then part C, and an A, and then B, and then C, and then I add a D, and then an A, and the loop keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then the emotion grows. And then the weight on my body grows and the suffering grows.
Our
And so
systems are,
in fight or flight.
and they're constantly on fire. Like it's
Yeah,
hurting
yeah,
us.
yeah. I used to think I need to feel this, but I didn't really know how to feel it without feeding it. And then I would avoid it because it felt so big. It would just take over everything. When you just feel an emotion, it doesn't get that big. When you feed it, you may not be aware that you're choosing it. Awareness is the first step to go, wow, I am creating a story out of this and I don't have all the information. Stay with the facts. The facts are we haven't spoken in almost 3 years. That's all. Anything I add to that is a story that I'm making up. I did that for a long while and now I don't. I miss him greatly. I have moments of sadness, but I don't make him the villain. I don't make myself the victim. And what I said to him the last time I spoke with him, I said, what I hear you saying is that you miss me and you love me. You just don't have the words to tell me. I think our kids are having a hard time expressing what they're feeling, what they need, and they're doing what we've taught them, which is to shut it down, shut it off.
I'm a divorced mother also, and I know that I did all those things that you talked about, how you were the fixer, the villain, the hero. You're the savior, everything. You wanted to move them through the divorce as seamlessly as possible, right? Like you wanted to.
Yeah, that was probably a big part of it because I didn't do it when it was convenient for anybody else. And the way I did it was not comfortable for anybody else. And it was probably the first time I stepped into this is my time. This is the way I'm choosing. They didn't agree. They didn't like it, although they weren't surprised. I feel we all handle things in our own time with the skills and the tools that we have at the time. Maybe the kid doesn't have the tools or the skills or the ability. The parent doesn't have the tools or the skills or the ability to receive what the child has to say. It's so complex. And I get so tired of hearing people say, the estrangement happened because you were abusive. I can tell you that's not true. There are abusive cases, and I know of abusive cases where the kids still stick around out of duty.
I
And
don't understand that. The kids that are
I know,
physically abused, the kids that are actually really physically abused, give their parent more slack and more empathy.
and some do, not all, but it has to do with how strongly they have a belief and how much that wraps up into their identity. And so some are able to disassociate from it. Some are still trying to fix it. Some are still trying to be the good boy, the good girl. There's not a black or white answer to that.
No, there's no answers to it. So
Yeah.
you have 4 children and you're estranged from 1. I have 2 children, I'm estranged from 1. And I have a very strong relationship with the other child.
I live out of the country. I have 3 grandchildren, 2 boys and a girl. My daughter and I have conversations. My boys and I don't hover. I don't get possessive about them. When we're together, we have amazing conversations. My oldest was down here a couple months ago with his 2 boys, and I got to go surfing with all 4 of them. I'm not the stay-at-home grandma. I don't live down the street. I live in another country, and I know that for some people, that's how can you do that? And could that be part of my estrangement? Maybe. I don't know. I am choosing me for the first time in my life, and to some, that is selfish. I'm showing people that there's another way to live life, that it doesn't have to be this step by step. You're a mom, then you're a grandma, and you just sit around until you die. I'm trying to fill my time with as much as I can. I was estranged from my father for many years, and we made amends. It was a relationship that was manipulated by someone else. We were able to work through it. And then until recently, I was estranged from my mother. I've been having to work on being the best version of myself in order to be around my mother. Maybe that's what some of these kids are trying to do. They don't feel like they're their best version of themselves. They become defensive, like they're 12 again, and they know that's the trigger, but they don't know how to show up any other way. Sometimes space and distance helps that. I've increased my capacity to show up in my full self with my mother. I bought a house in Tulsa. I go up for a couple months at a time. I'm trying to take care of her as best as I can. She's in assisted living. Things get challenging, and I honor my capacity with her. And when I start feeling pulled into old patterns is when I know I need to take a break.
So I have been going in and out as estranged with my mother for 50. I've been going in and out. I always needed her for the important things, like when my babies were born, when I moved, when I got divorced, I would call on her because I would need her. And she would do the minimum, but she would do it. Show up. My kids called her out because she didn't come over. So the last time I spoke to my mother, I took my mother out and we had lunch 2 years ago. She's 90. She was 88. I had talked to her since then, but the last time I can remember that was weird. She said something really weird in the car. I picked her up, I was taking her out to lunch, and she said something really weird in the car. It really upset me. It triggered me. It put me in a spiral into the fetal position. I was driving. Went out to lunch with her. I went to a quicker restaurant and I dropped her off faster than I wanted to. And I needed to get her away from me. I couldn't be with her. And in her head, she might think that the reason I went estranged was because she triggered me in the car, but she doesn't realize. And I think a lot of the mothers don't realize. And I'm not siding with the children in any way, shape, or form. Just, I want to get that out there. When she triggered me, that wasn't what made me not talk to her. That was maybe what made me not talk to her then, but it was accumulation of the 50 years of little cuts that accumulated in that particular moment that came up in me. So it wasn't that thing that she said. It was the thing that she said that triggered me, but it wasn't the thing she said to make me go estranged.
And it was the thing that you weren't able to say to her that caused you to have to be estranged from
No,
her.
my situation is a little different because my mother's like an extreme covert narcissist. So you can't really talk to them. You can't really say anything to them to make them understand. I believe my experience with my mother is she either chooses not to understand or she really does not understand. So,
She doesn't have the
like,
capacity.
she'll say something like, I don't like what you did and that was wrong. And I'll tell her how I feel. And then she'll go, you sent me all these cards when you were little and told me how much you loved me. So I can't really be a bad mother because when I was 10, I sent her
And
cards.
no, in our languaging around what you did was wrong, we're conditioned to use shame languaging, which puts someone on defensive. I'm learning how to say, this is what I noticed, and this is what I'm feeling, instead of what you did was wrong, what you did hurt me, what I'm feeling is, and then go into the conversation that way. Because when we come at him with even asking somebody, oh, what's wrong with you? Put
Negative.
someone up into
You're putting
defensive. So a lot of us don't have the language to communicate what we're feeling when we get triggered. And when we get triggered, we're pointing the blame on the other person. It's my experience. And that's the work that I've been doing. I'm not fully there. Trust me, I have
no,
moments.
you're so much more in a good place, like that you can talk to a mother that's estranged and you can see where they are. It's horrible because I think that the other mothers judge. Do you see that happening where
I try not to get into a
that's
judgment
bad?
space. I try to stay curious and think, okay, this has triggered something in them. And so instead of judging it as wrong or bad, what is the underlying message? What is it that they're really feeling or sensing? And they just don't have the words for it. So it's easier to lash out or judge. Judgment is a big thing that keeps us disconnected from other people. It's easy to judge our kids, our parents. Getting to a place with my mother where I could see her not as the woman who hurt me, but as a woman navigating her own experience, has given me the tools to have more capacity. When I'm with her, things get a little tense for me. And when
You're
they
better.
do get tense for me, I feel it in my body and I get constricted. You want to go into a fetal position. Reached my capacity. And that's when I go, okay, I need a break, need a couple days.
But you have enough self-awareness to know
Yeah.
that you need to remove yourself from the situation temporarily.
Most of us just don't have this language. We immediately want to jump on, negate, judge, criticize, shame, blame, instead of taking responsibility for, wow, when I watched that TikTok, I really felt triggered. I felt
Betrayed.
frustrated. Instead, it's easier than to just go into the pattern of wrong, bad, broken.
I believe the best gift we can give ourselves is sitting with our sadness and not reacting to it.
Reacting to any strong emotion never ends.
We have to redirect the love that we have for our children into something else. So we have space for them, and that space has a void, and we need to fill the void with something else, we just keep getting sad about it. A lot of the mothers go back to their last conversation. What did they say? They're constantly reaching back. Let me ask you this question. Because you have three other children and you have an estranged child like me, do you feel like you're mothering differently the other children? Do you feel like you're different? No, you don't feel you're more
No,
cautious or
no, I'm just me. I'm just
I
me.
love that. I wish I could.
Yeah, you can. You can. Practice, and I'm not driven by fear, and it's the fear of losing the other kids that might keep you responding differently. There's a saying that says, "The thing you fear the most, you create."
So a lot of the mothers feel like they're just waiting for the other child or the other children to go no contact, like they're waiting for it. And
Why put energy into that?
the estrangement also changes the family structure. Are your kids close with your estranged son?
Yeah, and my kids are close. They all four have a busy life. They live a couple hours away from each other. And my strange son is a twin.
Oh, wow.
Um,
That's not
they
the first
don't
time I've heard you are like the fifth mother I spoke to that has twins. That's not
they're
always
each raising my boys. I never called them the twins. I always dressed them differently. I had them in separate classrooms, on separate sport teams. I raised them as individuals. They are individuals. They're each having their own individual experience. Just because they're twins doesn't really change the dynamic. When my kids get together, they have a great time. They're playful, they joke around. They're not together every weekend, but yeah, they love each other very much. I've been on a healing journey since I was 40. I'm 60, I'll be 64 next month. And I wrote a book about my healing journey. It's called An Invitation to Shine, From Invisible to Invincible. It talks about my healing journey. And I wrote it in a manner where I share the story, just get your attention, and relate it to other experiences. So you don't actually have to go through some of the experiences that I went through to also find the lesson. I had a wellness center for 10 years. I taught yoga and body and movement. One of my taglines was, "We're here to forget what we learned and remember what we've forgotten to be at ease in our body." And that's what this whole book is, me forgetting all the things that I learned that made me forget who I truly was. And it runs through the whole book. We all are remarkable, lovable human beings. We've just forgotten. My journey has been to remember my power, my strength, who I am, go from feeling invisible to invincible. Part of that feeling invisible is walking on eggshells, not speaking our truth, not being who we really are because we're too busy living up to other people's versions of who we should be to maintain a relationship, as well as we need other people to prove our value. And
so true.
I realized a year and a half ago, I thought I'd done a really good job not trying to prove my value to people who don't value me. And a situation came up and I was looping in this story. And then I had the dream that shifted and gave me a different lens. And I woke up from that dream. I realized I was still trying to prove my value to a group of people that don't value me.
Right.
And I have this group of folks that do value me. And my attention is going to those who don't value me, and I am ignoring those who do value me. I've shifted. I have a women's group that comes to my house. The value is reciprocal. We lift each other up. And my intention moving forward is to help women remember what it's like to support other women as well as to be supported by other women.
Yeah. A lot of women I know don't like women.
It's a conditioning. It is based on past
Yes.
experiences. It's a belief we've taken on because of things that have happened in the past. And then we operate from that place.
I get stuck when somebody doesn't like me. And you can tell, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a feeling, and you get stuck there and you ruminate and you wonder why, and you don't ask them. People are allowed
And
to
you know
not
what?
like you.
It's absolutely. I'm
They're
sure there's
allowed to
people
not.
that you don't connect with. We're just not everybody's cup of tea.
You can meet somebody. I can meet somebody probably in the first 2 minutes and know I don't like them. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's okay to have people see. That's something women. I think that's something mothers do. I hear this line all the time from people, my kids. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. Do you know what I mean? This is not about you. When I was growing up, it wasn't about me. My birthday always falls on Mother's Day. It was always my mother's birthday, Mother's Day, and then my birthday. It was like the cake always said, Happy Mother's Day. Oh, and it's Minnie's birthday. My birthday wasn't about me. Nothing was about me. Then I had children. That wasn't about me. Then my children grew up. That wasn't about me. And now
So,
grandparents.
what do you do to make yourself feel like you're valued and you're special?
So all that defining has to come now because of this shift in my
Mhm.
life with my daughter.
And maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, I didn't get therapy until my daughter went estranged 5 years ago, which I should have gotten 40 years ago from my mother. Learning those things about us is really important. We can have a good life, a full life, a
Right.
productive life.
I saw something the other day. What's happening to you right now wouldn't be happening to you if it wasn't meant to be happening to you to help you get to where you need to go. For
Yes.
me, the growth that has come about because of this estrangement from my son has been astronomical. It wouldn't have happened had he gone no contact with me. Sometimes it takes these things for us to really take a long, hard look at ourselves, remembering that we can't change them. We can't change their experience. We can't fix it. We can only work on ourselves. That's what I've been doing. I got remarried 6 years ago, moved from Fort Worth to Houston area. 3 years later, my husband and I took the plunge and we moved out of the country to Panama. Yeah, I do. I miss some activities with my grandkids, but the times that I have with them are amazing. I got to talk to my granddaughter on Zoom or on a FaceTime, and she's 18 months old, and she just talked for the whole 15 minutes. It was so precious. I love it down here. Panama's given me my wings. We live part-time in Tulsa, and I'm not ready to give up my life here because I get a lot of work done when I'm down here. I'm able to do a lot
Quiet.
more self reflection. And so, yeah, no, I love it. We live in a little surf community called Playa Vinal, Panama,
So
and
nice.
expats from all over the world. My husband and I are the elders in the community.
I'm
There's a
always
few
the
people,
oldest everywhere I go.
and we say there's no ageism or racism down here. And there's a lot of kids that have taken me under their wing. I've taken them under my wing. And oftentimes we're filling a void for each other from a family member that we're not in contact with or have a relationship with like we would like. It's been healing for me to be with these young people and the community I've created. I work a lot with plant medicine and have for the last 11 years. They have helped reprogram some of my conditioning and been life changing. I write about it in my book as well.
So what I'm hearing from you is that
I
you
made these changes because my body said yes. It was presented to me and it was an opportunity that my body was a hell yeah. And so we just did it. I had a art community that I had built in Magnolia, Texas with 6, 7, 8 art studios. My art career was going great. I'm a ceramic artist.
I'm an artist too.
My husband is a Vietnam veteran, and safety was a big concern for him. Panama is very safe. We just thought, let's give it a try. I remember my daughter calling me and saying, Mom, if it doesn't work out, you can always come back. And I'm like, I know, baby. And now she's so excited that we've got a place in
How long
Tulsa.
have you been in Panama?
It'll be 3 years in April.
Okay, so pretty much when your son went estranged.
Mm.
We made a move. I had to get out of the family house. I was in the same house for 35 years a little town in Pennsylvania. I woke up January last year and I said to my husband, who I've been married to for 20 years, I'm dying. I need a change. I don't want to walk past the bedrooms. I don't want to look at the kitchen table anymore. I just want to change. So we moved. We downsized. We sold our house in 72 hours and we moved to be with my son and my daughter-in-law. But we're not enmeshed in their life. It's a good relationship. They wanted us here to help and watch the kids grow. We were going to do it in 3 years, 4 years from now. My grandchildren are almost 2. We
It's a
did
good
it
age,
now.
isn't it?
So we moved on their encouragement. We couldn't find a house because we sold our house so fast and we had to move. I came up here a few times to find a house. A couple of houses fell through. And my son and my daughter-in-law found this house and we bought it sight unseen. Didn't see it till the day we moved in. I love the house, but I love where I'm at.
That's what counts and that's what matters.
We moved in September, so it's been really cold here. So
Yeah.
we haven't met a community of people yet, but we will. But I think that at this particular point, I don't know if I would have been ready to even be a good friend 2 years ago or like a year and a half ago. I think I was in a different place. I think it's taking time because I think I need to get to where I need to be. I love that we moved. My son and daughter-in-law picked up the house and we didn't see it till we moved in.
That's amazing.
My mother put so much stress on material things. Material things aren't really the most important thing anymore. We
Right.
love the house. We're fine with it.
You mentioned your relationship or being a good friend, and a thread I keep seeing in some of the chats is asking if the estrangement with the child is affecting other relationships. And
Yes.
my daughter-in-law used to say, the way we do anything is the way we do everything. There's possibly a common thread in the estrangement, the relationships, whatever, that is going to keep happening until the awareness kicks in. It hasn't affected my relationship, but I also don't have it on the forefront. It's not something that I walk into the room carrying. If someone asks me about my kids, I just say they're great. They're living their lives. They're successful. They're independent. What more can I ask for? Truth.
Like, I remember before we moved, I would see certain people that I would just hide from because I just didn't want to talk about it. Now I feel like I have control of what I tell people. I can tell people as much as I want to tell them or as little as I want to tell them. I was suffocating when people knew everything. It was a little bit uncomfortable, like seeing people. My daughter's best friend father would see me all the time, and you could definitely see how he changed his attitude because he knew, and it's just weird.
It's funny. Something that I've been navigating is projecting my interpretation. Last night, my husband and I were talking about something, and I told him what I was feeling about it. And I went, wow, I realized I'm projecting that this is how you're reacting or how you're responding or how you're feeling, when that was the furthest thing from his mind. It was a projection that I had put on him. And this is something I'm fixing to dive really deep into. I've been hearing about projections a long time. This is a different lens with which I'm looking at them. If I feel like someone doesn't like me, I'm projecting that they don't like me. My body's responding. And our minds are so powerful. And they're going to create and look, our minds go looking for anything it can to affirm our belief. So if I believe that's what he's feeling or thinking, my mind is going to look for every reason why he believes or feels that way. And it's total projection.
And then we're going to make it true. We're going to make it true in our head. I would see him and like he maybe, who knows what was going on with him? Maybe he doesn't know.
Exactly.
Maybe he thinks my daughter's wrong. Maybe he doesn't think my daughter's
and
wrong.
we start making assumptions, stories, and then that becomes our truth. Instead of saying, hey, it was really good to see you the other day. I felt a little uncomfortable running into you. How was that for you? And just ask questions.
People aren't curious. They're creating. I think that there's a lot of words that keep flying around now that I think need to be defined in different ways. I think narrative. Women are saying the word narrative a lot. The children are also saying things like they want boundaries. What's a boundary? What is a boundary is a word, but what is a boundary? So I had interviewed a therapist, wonderful, and she was explaining what boundaries were. She's a therapist for estrangement, but she also is a low contact with her mother. So she said that a boundary to her was her mother, like when we were talking about earlier, her mother probably triggered her and she needed to remove herself from the situation. And she would say to her mother, I just need a little space. She wanted a boundary. So after about 2 weeks of no contact, her mother would call her and say, okay, your boundaries, it's over. We have to talk now. But she wasn't ready. The boundary to be over, but her mother didn't understand. So there's no definition. There's nobody giving the parameters.
So boundaries to me are agreements. And I write a lot about agreements in my book, basically around sexual agreements, but how they apply worldwide or in the greater sense. When I first learned about agreements, there was a couple in this workshop, and he said, not having clear agreements is like throwing a bunch of sticks down a dark
Yeah.
hallway and expecting your partner not to step on them. So we have these assumed agreements that we haven't had conversations about.
Right.
So a boundary is setting up agreements of what you can and cannot, or what you do and do not have the capacity for. So it's a boundary to protect yourself. For me, I have tapped into my capacity. What is my capacity? How can I expand my capacity? And then when I notice when I am edging towards the end of my capacity, then that's when I have to set the boundary because I don't feel safe. Something feels threatened. Boundaries are just agreements with yourself and with the other person. They don't have to agree with you, what you're expressing. They don't have to follow them, but you can say, okay, this is really important to me and it's not to them. So where's my boundary with that?
There's no definition. Like when I'm with my grandchildren, I have a list on my refrigerator of things that I can and cannot do with them. They don't want me filling the kids up with sugar because when they come home, they're bouncing off the walls for 3 days. Even though the grandparent wants to give the child cookies and all gummies and whatever sugar filled apple juice, the parents are not saying it to be mean. I'm just using this one boundary as an example. They're saying that when the child comes back to me and they're bouncing off the walls for 48 hours because they're filled with sugar, it's uncomfortable for us and we can't control it. So if you would just remove the sugar, that would be helpful. It's just fine. When the kid goes home, there's a seamless transition. Do you believe they need to explain the boundary and why? Do you think they need to?
No, not at all. That's how they want to care for their kids. Those are the rules they're setting up around what's best for their children. Why do they need to explain that to you? They don't.
I have a list on my refrigerator.
Yeah.
My husband,
Yeah.
we follow
So
it.
you wanted a definition of boundaries, and I'm looking through this training, and let's see. It says people get tangled because boundaries aren't about controlling someone else's behavior. They're about your behavior, what you choose, what you participate in, what you step back from, and what happens if the line gets crossed. They also change with our capacity. When we're well resourced, our boundaries can be looser. When you're tapped out, they get tighter. So I think what's happening in some of these, the kids that are maybe using, who need to set boundaries, basically what they're saying is they don't have the capacity right now for anything more. And until they take responsibility for that, they're still putting themselves in the place of a victim, you as the villain. And it works the other way around. I've had to set boundaries at times with my mother, but I've also increased my capacity so that I can be around her. Boundaries are not about changing somebody else. They're about
what you need to
they're
function.
about honoring your capacity in the moment.
Respect.
You're respecting yourself when you set those boundaries. And one of the things I remember him showing us is the continuum of boundaries is on one end, they can, they will, and they do. They can't, they won't, and they don't. And that's a
Right.
strong boundary. But when they
Good.
can, they will, and they do. So when we don't have clear boundaries, it's really just a suggestion. But when we have clear boundaries with consequences, that's a boundary. But if we have boundaries with no consequences, We're merely offering a suggestion.
Yeah, so the boundary, I think a lot of our kids, we thought for them. Did you experience that? Like, we helped shape them, and
We did our job,
but
and now
do
it's
you
time
think
for
we
us.
overcor
There's no, you're grouping and you're making a
right,
huge assumption because
fast.
every situation is different. If you feel you did that, then maybe look at underneath. Why did you feel that you had to be? Let me give you another example. When I was
Right.
married, I wanted to go back to college and I had 4 kids. They were all in school. And the story I told for 30, 40 years was my ex husband wouldn't let me go back to school. Okay. Rewriting that story, I had to look at why did I feel like I needed his permission to go back to school. So, underneath every story where we are the victim, or we play the villain, or we play the helper, there's something else running underneath. Every time you find yourself going into explaining, trying to make yourself right, trying to pull in people for your cause, you're in drama. How can you step out and take responsibility for the situation that was created?
It makes total sense. You weren't tied to the radiator. You could have went to school anytime you wanted to,
I
but
had a belief that I needed his permission.
you
Yeah,
were also raising 4 children. I think women are very good at multitasking. We could
of
men can
course. But I guess the point I'm trying to get is we have these
yes.
beliefs that become our identity that limit us.
It's also because we're baby you're the very tail end of the baby boomer. I'm, like, almost at the tail end. I was raised by the silent generation. My mother had 3 mottos, literally 3 mottos. "Do as I say, not as I do. Children are seen and not heard," and "Look pretty and marry a rich guy." That was her messages. That's what our parents I'm also making a generalization about that, but I believe that generation was not as forward thinking as our generation was.
No, look at the generation that raised them and the generation that raised them. We're dealing with generational trauma that's
Major
passed
gen
down. I was told by a psychologist that when you do your healing work, you're healing 7 generations behind and 7 generations forward.
I would
What
buy
I'm
into that.
doing for my grandkids, for my granddaughter, and some of my medicine journeys, we call in the ancestors and I feel them supporting me, encouraging me to continue to do the work that they weren't able to do. We're evolving as a species, but we're still carrying baggage that's
A
not
lot of
ours to
bags.
carry. Now, so let me tell you before we end this
Yes.
call, because I don't
Yes.
know how much longer we've got. One of the ways that helped me rewrite my stories was I would tell my story and I would type it out. And then I would put it into Chat GPT. And I'd say, rewrite this from a place of empowerment, not from a place of being in the drama triangle. And it would rewrite the story. And I'd look at it through a new lens and go, holy shit. Now, I have a lot of interactive GPTs that I've created where you can work with the drama triangle specifically. I have one, it's a companion for my book. So you can ask questions and it's pre-programmed with some of my stuff.
Wow.
Rewriting these stories and finding what our origin story was. We all come into this life with a belief that everything we see around us is shaped from that belief. When I uncovered my origin story, I'm the oldest. And when my mother was born, we had an RA negative positive mismatch. And it set up an environment for my sister that it could have killed her had it not been for the medication that they can give the mother. When it was retold to me from my mother's lens, her being pregnant with me and could have killed my sister. I never thought about that again until 2 years ago. And I was going into a medicine journey, and that story came to the forefront. And I realized from the moment I was conceived, I took on the belief that my presence here was a danger to other people. And so when I looked at that lens, it was like the first pair of glasses I put on. And everything I saw in my world was through this lens of me being a harm to other people or a danger. And I was able to reprogram that story. I feel like it was just reprogrammed out of my DNA. But we all
God.
have an origin story around our value, our right to be here, to be big. And so the work is intense, but it's worth it.
Hard.
It's so worth it. It feels hard at times. And in my book, I talk about these journeys and the challenges that I faced, and then the way I was able to integrate them into my life.
That's amazing that you could do that because right, so you felt responsible for a lot of stuff that you really shouldn't have felt
Well,
responsible.
it explained my relationship to my sister. It explained the lens she took on because maybe her origin story was that I was the harm to her. I don't know what her origin story. We haven't worked with her on that.
Uh,
But I have worked with other women and helping them uncover their origin story, and it is life
I'm
changing.
up for that. You want to talk to you about that off this. That would definitely be something. Also, your self-healing journey. You said you have a wheel.
Yeah, it's called an interactive emotion wheel. I'm breaking it down so that it will be not so overwhelming for people. I'll send you the link. I have 3 intro to the wheel, and then it directs you into my school group where I will be adding additional interactive that you can do on your own, hosting Zoom calls, having meetings, maybe at some point doing a retreat. I'm still building it because not everybody's ready to use the wheel. I've tried to make it where it's not so overwhelming. Little pieces. Right now, I'm on module
Yes.
7 that I'm creating. I'm doing a call on the 23rd of February with another group that I'm in called Alive. I've done a couple calls with my estranged parents, and they've helped me. The first call I did with them, because this is not a platform that I ever intended to use. I don't blast on social media, but what I realize is I have been gifted with time, resources, and money to be where I'm at today.
Right.
And if I can help anybody get out of their story, get out of the loop, get into what they're feeling, and move forward from a place of joy. There's a guy that, and I don't remember his name, but he said, joy is the mother of all emotions, and she won't come sit at your table until all of her children are welcome. For me, this journey of healing in my book has been about feeling my emotions. I was on antidepressants for 15 years, which numbed me out. When I got off of them, I was like, wow, I need to relearn how to feel. I need to learn how to feel because
Right.
most of us are taught how to feel at a 4th grade level: happy, sad, mad, glad, angry. This emotion wheel has 3 layers. It takes you from the core to the secondary emotion, which sets the tone, which then goes into a 3rd layer, which brings it into the body. And it's helping us become more aware of our emotional landscaping. And surfing has brought all of this to life for me. It's used a lot of surfing metaphors, waves, the ocean in my teachings around emotions. And yeah, I'll
This
share
is
those
such a
links.
value.
Oh no, I'll share the links with you.
Absolutely, because this is a valuable tool for women.
And I'm finding a lot of these estrangement groups are not allowing me to post. And I'm not trying to pilfer off of their group.
No,
I'm
no,
just
I
saying, hey,
understand.
here's another opportunity,
Their
tools.
alternative.
Those that are ready to work with me will come into my orbit. Not everybody is ready to work with me. Before we do the wheel work, you have to play with the intro to get into the wheel. Have a funnel to get to a place where we can work together. Because if someone comes into my group and is still stuck in the drama triangle and not ready to step out of the drama triangle, we're not going to be a match. Because,
Like rehab. If you get sentenced to go to rehab, you can't rehab. You have to want to rehab.
right,
You need to want this. And not as an out, you need to want this.
you really have to
You
be willing
have
to
to be
take the
ready.
heart and look at yourself. You are the only one who can change your experience.
I love this for
Okay.
me.
Thank you so much for having me. Send you
Well,
those links. They're also in the Parenting Forward group. There's the emotion wheel that I was talking about. And then
yeah.
within that emotion wheel, it will take you to my free school group. And so
Okay.
within the school group, will be doing. I'm still trying to figure out, because like I say, this is a new platform for me, and I'm
A
stepping.
lot of work.
It is a lot of work to not lose myself,
Yes.
because right now I'm not charging anything. So I really have to set boundaries around, my capacity and what I'm willing to bring in and let out and give of myself. And I'm not one to block people from my group, but I did the other day have to block a woman because she felt like she wanted to jump my shit about something. And I'm like, okay, that's not here.
One apple, one bad apple.
No,
Everybody's
it ruins the whole bunch. So
thank you so much, Kimber.
yeah,
I
thank you,
enjoyed talking
Mindy.
to you. We'll talk soon.
You.
Thank you again for coming on our show. And for our audience at home listening, you can apply to tell your story, listen to all episodes, and connect with us on social media at momonmute.com.